Light comes over the fence first. It touches the top of the bean poles, then the wet grass, then the back of your hands before you have said a single word to anyone. There is a person who stands at the garden gate at that hour, barefoot on the cold stone, holding a cup of coffee that is already going lukewarm and does almost nothing. Just watches the light arrive. And that person, by every measure a doctor can put on paper, sleeps deeper than almost anyone you know. By the time this ends, you will understand why the people who meet the garden at first light fall asleep faster and wake less in the night than the people who chase sleep with a pill on the nightstand, and why the real difference has almost nothing to do with being tired. Here is the part nobody says out loud. The pill works on the night, the garden works on the morning, and the morning, strange as it sounds, is where the night is actually decided. You do not fix a bad sleep at 11 at night. You fixed it, or you failed to, at 6 that morning in the light before you were even fully awake. Most people have this backwards. They spend all evening trying to slow down. They dim the lamps, they count breaths, they lie in the dark negotiating with their own mind, and then they wonder why the bottle on the nightstand keeps getting closer. They are working on the wrong end of the day. They are trying to earn sleep in the last hour, when the body made up its mind 12 hours earlier, standing in a kitchen with the blinds still shut. I want you to hold one image while we talk. That gate, that cold stone underfoot, the coffee going from hot to warm to forgotten while someone stands still and lets the first light land on their face. We will come back to that gate at the very end, and it will mean something different than it does right now. There is a woman 2 houses down who used to keep a small pharmacy on her bedside table. Everyone in the family knew about it. The little bottles, the ones she said she could not sleep without. Then one summer they quietly disappeared and nobody could say exactly when. She did not announce it. She did not follow a program. Something changed in how she started her days and the nights followed. We are going to come back to her too, because what she did is the whole point, and it is simpler than any pill she ever bought. But first I have to tell you what actually happens to a body in that first hour of light, because it is not a feeling and it is not willpower. It is a switch, a real one, and almost everyone flips it too late or never flips it at all. The people who sleep the deepest are not the most exhausted. They are the ones who taught their body what time it is. And they did it outside. In the 1 hour most people sleep straight through or spend indoors with the curtains closed, staring at a small bright screen that tells their brain a lie about what hour it really is. So here is the question I want you to carry. What if the reason you lie awake at night has nothing to do with night at all? What if the answer was waiting for you at the garden gate this morning, and you walked right past it on your way to the coffee machine? Stay with me, because in a few minutes you are going to understand exactly what that light does the moment it touches your skin, and why no capsule ever made can copy it. And you are going to understand why the calmest sleepers you know almost never talk about sleep at all. They talk about mornings. There is an hour that belongs to almost no one. It arrives before the phones start, before the traffic thickens, before the first message asks something of you. The sky is not bright yet, just pale at one edge, and the garden is holding its breath. Everything is wet, not from rain, from the night itself, cooling, letting go of what it held. Slow down for a second and picture what that hour actually looks like. The lettuce leaves are heavy with dew, each one carrying a bead of water that catches the first gray light. The soil is dark and cool, darker than it will be all day. A spider has stitched a web across the gate overnight, and now it hangs there, silver, perfect, waiting. And the air has a smell you only get at this hour, green and mineral and clean, the smell of a world that has not been touched yet today. Most people never meet this hour standing up. They meet it from inside sleep, or they skip past it, alarm to shower to coffee to door, eyes down, already behind. The hour comes and goes, and no part of them registers that it happened. But the person at the gate is not doing anything productive. That is what makes it strange to us now. They are not weeding yet. They are not planning the day. They are standing in the cool with a warm cup, letting the light come up on their own face, and it looks, to a busy person watching from a window, like a waste of time. It is the opposite of a waste of time. It is the most important appointment of the day, and the body treats it that way even when the mind does not understand why. Think about how rare stillness has become. When was the last time you stood outside for 10 minutes and asked nothing of the world and let it ask nothing of you? Not scrolling, not planning, not fixing, just present in the cool while the light climbed. For most people, the honest answer is that they cannot remember, and their sleep knows it. Because here is what that quiet hour is doing underneath the stillness. It is speaking to a part of you that has no words and no opinions and does not care how busy you are. A part that has been keeping time in your body since long before there were clocks. And it is listening very carefully at exactly this hour for one specific signal. The old people understood this without ever explaining it. Your grandparents or theirs were outside at first light not because they read about circadian rhythm, but because that was when the work began and the animals needed feeding, and the cool was the only decent hour to move in before the heat. They got the light by accident every single morning for their whole lives, and they slept, most of them, like the dead. Not because life was easy. Life was hard. They slept because their bodies always knew what hour it was. We lost that hour somewhere. We moved it indoors. We traded it for one more cycle of sleep that never quite refreshes and a screen that glows before the sun does. And we told ourselves it did not matter because the difference is invisible. You cannot feel the switch being thrown. You only feel the result hours and hours later when you are lying in the dark wondering why your mind will not go quiet. Notice something else about that hour. It does not repeat. The light is never the same twice. One morning it comes up gray and slow through a low mist, and the whole garden looks like a photograph of itself. The next it breaks sharp and gold over the fence, and every dewdrop turns into a tiny lamp. A person who stands there every day is watching a thing that never plays the same way, and some quiet part of them learns morning after morning that the world is always making something new and asking nothing for it. You cannot get that from a screen. A screen gives you the same bright rectangle at every hour of the day and night and tells your body nothing true about where you are in time. The morning tells you everything, and it tells you gently, and it never lies. The garden at that hour is not asking you to work. It is offering you something. And the thing it offers is not calm, though calm comes. It is not fresh air, though the air is fresh. It is a piece of information your body has been starving for, a signal it needs the way it needs water. And in the next few minutes, I am going to tell you exactly what that signal is and what it sets in motion the instant it reaches you. Because once you understand it, you will never look at that first hour the same way again. You will start to guard it. Deep inside your head, behind your eyes, there is a cluster of cells no bigger than a grain of rice. It has one job. It is a clock, not a clock you read. A clock that reads you and reads the world and decides hour by hour what your whole body should be doing, when to raise your temperature, when to release the chemicals that make you alert, and most importantly for tonight, when to release the one that makes you sleep. That clock has to be set every single day. It does not run true on its own. Left in the dark with no signal, it drifts a little later each day like an old watch losing time. And there is exactly one thing strong enough to set it. Not food, not exercise, not willpower. Light. Specifically, the light of early morning hitting your open eyes out in the open air. Here is the number that should stop you. The light in your kitchen with every lamp on is somewhere around 200 to 500 units of brightness. The light outside at sunrise, even under gray cloud, even before the sun clears the fence, is 10,000 units or more. Your kitchen is not a dim version of morning. It is a different world entirely. Your body cannot even see it as morning. To that grain of rice behind your eyes, a lit kitchen at 6 in the morning reads as deep dusk, as almost night. So picture the two people. One stands at the garden gate in the real light, 10,000 units washing over an open face. The other sits at the kitchen table under a bulb, curtains still closed, phone glowing, and calls it morning. To their bodies, these are not the same event. One person just set their clock cleanly, powerfully, right on time. The other told their clock nothing, and it will keep drifting later, and tonight it will not know when to let them sleep. That is the switch. That is the whole secret hiding inside the stillness. When bright morning light hits your eyes, that clock gets set, and it starts a timer you cannot see. Roughly 14 to 16 hours later, on schedule, your body begins to release the chemical that pulls you down into sleep. Meet the light at 6 in the morning, and that release begins around 8 or 9 at night. and by 10 you are genuinely, chemically ready. Miss the light and the timer never starts clean, and the release comes late, or weak, or not at all, and you lie there at midnight wide awake and blame the coffee. Read that again because it is the thing almost nobody knows. The sleepiness you want at night is manufactured by the light you got in the morning. You are not filling a tank all day and emptying it at bedtime. You are setting a timer at dawn. Sleep is not the end of the day. It is the far end of the morning. This is why the garden works and the bedroom does not. The bedroom is where you try to sleep. The garden is where you build the sleep, hours ahead in the light without even trying. The person at the gate is not resting. They are winding the clock. And they do it so early and so completely that by the time night comes, their body simply obeys, the way a wound clock keeps time whether you think about it or not. And now you can see the trap the busy person falls into. They wake in a dim house. They keep the light low because bright light feels harsh so early. They look at a small screen instead of a wide sky. They step outside for 30 seconds to check the weather and step right back in. Their clock gets a whisper of a signal or none and drifts a little later, and the next night is a little worse, and they reach a little sooner for the bottle. None of it feels like a cause. It just feels like bad luck. It is not luck. It is a clock nobody wound. The woman 2 doors down, the one whose little bottles vanished. She did not know any of this in these words, but she found the switch anyway by accident, the way the old people did. And in a moment I am going to tell you exactly how, because it was almost embarrassingly simple, and it is the same door that is open to you tomorrow morning. Her name does not matter. What matters is the bedside table, because everyone in that house had seen it. 3 or 4 little bottles lined up like a small congregation, the ones she picked up when she could not sleep, the ones she said she needed, the ones that got a little stronger over the years the way they tend to. She was not ashamed of them. She was just tired in the way that never lifts, the way where you are exhausted all day and wired all night, both at once, which is the worst kind. Here is how it started, and it had nothing to do with sleep. Her knees were going. The doctor told her to move more in the mornings, gently, before the stiffness set in. She did not join anything. She did not buy equipment. She had a small, overgrown patch behind the house, more weeds than garden, and she decided she would go out there for a few minutes each morning and pull whatever was choking the roses. So she started going out at first light. Not for sleep, for her knees. Coffee in one hand, the other hand in the cool soil, 10 or 15 minutes while the light came up over the fence. Picture her out there those first mornings, slightly annoyed, cold, not a believer in anything, pulling weeds in the gray light because a doctor told her to, checking the time, wanting to go back in. That is the whole beginning. There was no plan for the thing that happened next. What happened next was that after a couple of weeks, she noticed she was falling asleep before she reached for the bottle. Not every night, but some nights the tiredness arrived on its own, warm and heavy and early, and she was asleep before she remembered to be anxious about sleeping. She thought it was the weeding tiring her out. It was not the weeding. The weeding barely raised her heart rate. It was the light. Every morning, without knowing it, she had been standing in 10,000 units of it, setting a clock that had been drifting loose for years, starting a timer that finally, night after night, began to run on time. By the end of that summer, the bottles were still on the table, but she was not opening them. By the next spring, they were in a drawer. Nobody in the family could tell you the day she stopped. There was no day. There was just a morning habit that quietly rebuilt her nights from the far end, and a body that remembered, once it was reminded, exactly what to do. Now here is the part I want you to sit with. She did not do anything a doctor would call treatment. She spent 10 minutes outside at the right hour. That is the entire intervention. 10 minutes of early light and cool air and hands in the dirt, done for her knees, that happened to fix the one thing 3 bottles could not. And this is why I keep saying the calmest sleepers you know talk about mornings and never about sleep. They are not hiding a secret. They genuinely do not think about sleep, because sleep stopped being a problem the moment their mornings got fixed. You only obsess over the thing that is broken. Fix the clock and the night takes care of itself, and you go back to talking about your tomatoes. But I have been telling you it is the light, and that is true, and it is the biggest part. It is not the only part, because if it were only the light, she could have stood at a bright window and gotten the same result. She did not stand at a window. She put her hands in the soil. And there is a second thing happening out there at the same hour that the light alone cannot explain. Something in the touch of cool earth on skin that does its own quiet work on a nervous system that has forgotten how to come down. So let us go to the soil. Let us talk about what your hands know at that hour that the rest of you forgot. Kneel down for a moment in your mind at that hour. Press your fingers into the soil before the sun has warmed it. It is cool, almost cold and slightly damp, and it gives under your hand and then holds. There is a smell that rises the instant you break the surface, dark and sweet and a little sharp, the smell of earth that has been alive all night. Your hand knows this feeling from somewhere very old. It relaxes into it before you tell it to. Something happens to a body that touches the ground. Not a mystical something, a measurable one. Blood pressure eases. The shoulders, which have been up around the ears for years, come down a fraction. The breath, without any instruction, gets slower and drops lower into the belly. The nervous system, which spends most of the modern day braced as if something is about to go wrong, gets a signal it almost never gets anymore. The signal that says you are safe, you are here, nothing is chasing you, you can stand down. We have a nervous system built in two halves. One half is the accelerator, the part that speeds you up, tightens you, floods you with the chemistry of alarm. The other half is the brake, the part that slows the heart and opens the gut and lets the body repair. Modern life keeps a foot on the accelerator almost all day. Traffic, screens, the small constant hum of things half finished. Bright light late at night. We stay revved, hour after hour, and then we lie down and expect the engine to stop instantly, and it will not because we never touched the brake all day. The garden at dawn is the brake. Kneeling in cool soil, hands in the earth, no screen, no noise, the light soft, the air cool, is one of the few things left in an ordinary life that presses that brake down and holds it. And a nervous system that gets to rest on the brake for even 10 minutes in the morning carries less charge into the night. It is easier to stop an engine that was idling than one that was redlined until the second you switched it off. Here is a small thing to notice. Watch someone weed, really watch them, and you will see their face change. It goes slack in a good way. The little muscles around the eyes let go. The jaw unclenches. They are not meditating. They would laugh if you called it that. But the mind gets quiet the same way because the hands are busy with something simple and real and endless, and the eyes are down among green growing things, and there is nothing to solve, nothing to win, nothing that beeps. The mind, given a simple task in cool earth and morning light, does the thing it never does at bedtime. It stops. And that stopping in the morning is what makes the stopping possible at night. You cannot ask a mind that has never once paused all day to suddenly pause at 11 at night. It does not know how. It has forgotten the feeling. But a mind that touched the earth at dawn and went quiet for 10 minutes has a memory of quiet in it fresh from that same day, and it can find its way back to that place in the dark much more easily. You practice the off switch in the morning. At night, your hand knows where it is. There is a reason children fall asleep so easily, and it is worth remembering here. A child spends the day outside in the light on the ground, hands in whatever they can reach, the whole nervous system open and unbraced. Then night comes and they drop into sleep like a stone into water, complete, instant, deep. We lost that not because we grew up, but because we moved indoors and armored ourselves and forgot how to be unbraced for even a minute. The garden at dawn hands a piece of that childhood back. Cool earth, open air, a mind with nothing to defend against. For 10 minutes you are that unbraced creature again, and the body remembers, and it sleeps that night a little more the way it slept when you were small. This is the second thing the woman with the bottles got, without knowing she was getting it. Not just the light through her eyes, winding the clock, but the cool earth under her hands, teaching a wired body how to idle again. Two gifts at the same hour from the same 10 minutes, working on two different machines inside her, both of which had been running too hot for too long. But there is a third layer under this, deeper than light and deeper than touch, and it is the one that explains why this feels less like a technique and more like a homecoming. Because the body is not learning something new out there at dawn. It is remembering something it has always known and only recently forgot. Your body was built outdoors, every part of it. It was shaped across an almost unimaginable stretch of time by mornings exactly like the one in your garden, cool light coming up over a wet green world, and it still expects that morning to arrive. It is waiting for it. When the morning comes and the body meets it, something in you settles that you did not even know was unsettled. When the morning comes and you are indoors under a bulb, some deep expectation goes unmet, quietly, every single day, and the cost of that accumulates in ways you feel but cannot name. Think about how new our indoor life actually is. For almost the entire history of people, every human being alive woke with the light and moved through the day with the sun and stopped when it got dark. The rhythm was not a choice. It was the water they swam in. Their bodies did not need to be reminded what hour it was because the hour was written on the sky and they were under the sky all day. Sleep was not a skill anyone worked at. It came because everything upstream of it was in order. Then in a sliver of time so small it barely registers, we built walls and roofs and glass, and most powerful of all, we built our own light, light we could switch on at any hour, light that let us push the day past dark and pull the morning behind curtains. In a couple of generations, we took a body shaped by a million mornings and moved it indoors, and we are surprised that it does not sleep well. It is not broken. It is homesick. It is a creature of the open morning, kept from the open morning doing its best. This is why the garden at dawn does not feel like effort once you start. Effort is doing something against your nature. This is the opposite. This is stepping back into the exact conditions the body was tuned for, and the body responds the way a plant responds when you finally move it into the light it was always meant to have. It does not have to be convinced. It just straightens up and begins to thrive, as if it had been waiting the whole time for someone to open the door. Here is a question worth sitting with. What else in your life is quietly running against the grain of a body built for a different world? The late screens, the dim mornings, the meals at odd hours, the days that end not when it gets dark, but when the last task is done at midnight. We have arranged an entire life that a very old body was never designed to live. And then we treat the symptoms one at a time, with bottles, when the real issue is that we walked out of the rhythm we were made for and forgot the way back. The way back is not complicated. That is the thing that offends people about it. We want the solution to be as sophisticated as the problem feels. We want a device, a protocol, a purchase. And the actual answer is to stand outside in the morning like every ancestor you ever had, and let the oldest signal in the world tell your body what time it is. The garden is just the reason to be out there, the reason to stand still long enough, the excuse the modern mind needs to do the ancient thing. The people who sleep deepest have simply stopped fighting the rhythm. They gave in to it. They let the morning be the morning and the night be the night, and they put themselves in the path of the light the way their grandparents did without thinking. And their reward is the sleep their grandparents had, the deep, unremarkable sleep of a body that knows what hour it is. So then why the pill? If the answer is this old and this simple, why does the bottle on the nightstand keep winning? The answer is that the pill is offering something that feels faster and easier, and it is a kind of trap. And once you see how the trap works, you will understand why it can never do what the morning does, no matter how many you take. The pill has one great advantage, and it is the reason it wins. It works tonight. You are lying there at midnight, mind racing, and the bottle is right there, and it promises relief in 20 minutes. The garden cannot compete with that in the moment, because the garden's help is 12 hours away and requires you to get up early, and nobody in the grip of a sleepless night wants to hear about tomorrow morning. So the bottle wins the night. It just loses the war. Here is why. Picture your sleep as a house with a foundation and walls. The morning light is the foundation. It sets the clock, it starts the timer, it decides when the whole structure of sleep should rise. The pill does not touch the foundation. It cannot. It works on the walls, and badly. It knocks you down into a state that resembles sleep but is thinner than the real thing, missing the deepest and most repairing stages, so you get hours that look like sleep on paper and do not leave you restored. You wake heavy. Not rested, because the foundation was never poured. You just draped a tarp over an empty lot and called it a house. And it gets worse because the body is clever and it adapts. Take the pill often enough and the body adjusts to it, so the same dose does less, so the dose creeps up, which everyone who has walked this road knows. The little bottle gets a little stronger. Meanwhile, the underlying clock, the real problem, is still drifting, still unset, still starving for a morning that never comes. Because now you are sleeping late to recover from the groggy nights, which means you miss the light even more, which means the clock drifts further, which means you need the pill more. That is the trap. The pill creates the exact conditions that make you need the pill. It is a circle that tightens. The morning does the reverse. It builds the thing that makes the pill unnecessary. Every morning at the gate lays a little more foundation, sets the clock a little more firmly, until the night simply works on its own, and the bottle sits there unopened, and one spring it ends up in a drawer, and you cannot remember when. One path tightens around you over years. The other quietly sets you free over the same years and asks only that you be outside for 10 minutes at the right hour. I'm not telling anyone to throw away what a doctor gave them. That is not my place, and it would be foolish. What I am saying is that the pill and the morning are not two versions of the same thing. They are aimed at completely different targets. The pill fights the night downstream after the mistake is already made. The morning prevents the night from going wrong in the first place upstream at the source. And you can spend a lifetime fighting downstream, bailing water, taking more and stronger, and never once walk upstream to see that someone left the tap running at dawn. There's a strange grief in this for a lot of people when it lands. All those nights, all that money, all that quiet worry about a body that seemed to have betrayed them. And the thing that would have helped was free and outside and available every single morning, and no one ever framed it as medicine because you cannot sell a sunrise. It does not come in a bottle. There is no label, so it stays invisible, this enormous simple thing, hiding in the 1 hour we gave away. But there is good news buried in that grief, and it is this. If the morning was the missing piece all along, then the fix was never far away and never expensive and never too late. It is waiting at the gate tomorrow, exactly where it was this morning, exactly where it will be for the rest of your life. You did not miss your chance. The chance comes back every single day at first light. You just have to be standing in it. And when you start to stand in it, something else shows up that no pill ever gave anyone. A different kind of tiredness at the end of the day. Not the wired, hollow exhaustion you know. Something older and better that I want to describe exactly, because once you have felt it, you will chase it instead. There are two kinds of tired, and they could not be more different, though we use the same word for both. There is the tired you know too well, the wired tired, the kind where your body is heavy and your mind is racing at the same time, where you are too exhausted to do anything and too switched on to rest, lying in the dark with a busy head and a slack body. That tired does not lead to sleep. It leads to the bottle. It is the tired of a day spent revved on the accelerator, screens and worry, and no light and no earth. A nervous system that never once got to touch the brake. Then there is the other tired, the clean one, the kind that comes after a day that had a real morning in it, a day that started outside in the cool with your hands in the soil and the light on your face. It arrives in the evening like weather, gradually, warmly, and it settles over the whole body at once, mind included. Your thoughts get slow and soft. Your eyes get heavy in a way that feels good instead of frightening. You are not fighting to sleep. You are being pulled toward it gently, and the pull is stronger than any worry, and you go down into it grateful. That is the tired the body was designed to end its days with. That is the tired that no capsule has ever once produced, because it is not a chemical. It is a whole day arranged the right way, arriving at its natural end. Picture the evening of the woman with the bottles that first summer before she understood any of it. She is on the couch after supper. The light is going outside, and she notices almost with suspicion that she feels sleepy. Not drugged, not desperate, just genuinely pleasantly ready, the way a child gets ready, the way she has not felt in years. She half distrusts it. She waits for the wired feeling to come back and ruin it. It does not come. She goes to bed early, almost shy about it, and she is asleep before the anxious part of her mind can even begin its usual work. That is the moment it turned. Not a dramatic moment. A quiet one on an ordinary couch at the end of an ordinary day that happened to have a morning in it. Ask yourself which tired you actually know. Be honest about it. If you lie down most nights heavy in the body and loud in the head, that is the wired tired, and no amount of trying harder at bedtime will turn it into the other kind, because the other kind is not made at bedtime. If you have felt the clean tired even once, on some rare day that happened to have a long morning outside in it, then you already know it is real, and you already know the difference is not small. It is the difference between being knocked down and being carried down, between losing consciousness and being gently let go of. Same closed eyes, completely different night. Here is what almost no one understands about that clean tired. You cannot get it at night. You can only earn it in the morning. It is made at dawn and delivered at dusk. The light you stood in, the earth you touched, the brake you finally pressed, all of it was the deposit, and this warm, heavy evening pull is the payout, arriving right on schedule, 12 to 16 hours later, exactly as the body intended. The night is just cashing a check the morning wrote. And once you have felt it a few times, something shifts in you that is stronger than any advice. You stop needing to be told to go outside in the morning. You want to. You start to guard that hour, not out of discipline but out of memory, because you remember how the evening felt after and you want it again. The whole thing becomes self-powered. The good morning makes the good night, and the good night makes you protect the good morning. And the circle that used to tighten around you now turns the other way and slowly opens your whole life up. That is the quiet secret of the deepest sleepers. They are not more disciplined than you. They have simply felt the clean tired, and once you have felt it, the wired tired becomes unbearable by comparison, and you will get up early for the rest of your life to avoid going back. Not because you should, because you finally know the difference. So we come to the last question, the one under all of this. If it is this simple, this old, this available, why do so few people do it? And the answer is not really about sleep at all. It is about what you are actually doing out there at the gate, which is far more than winding a clock. Nobody stands at a garden gate at dawn only for their sleep. That is the reason they give themselves, or the reason a doctor gave them, but it is not what keeps them coming back. What keeps them coming back is harder to say out loud, because it sounds too large for 10 minutes and a cup of coffee. What keeps them coming back is that those 10 minutes are the only part of the day that belongs entirely to them, and to something older than them, and asks nothing in return. Think about what that hour really is. It is the one time in the day when you are not being useful to anyone, not answering, not providing, not solving. You are standing in the cool watching light arrive on leaves you planted in a small patch of the world you tend, and the whole exchange is quiet and complete and yours. Everything else in a life pulls at you. This 1 hour just holds you. And a person who gets that hour day after day is being fed something the body needs as badly as it needs the light, though it has no name in any medical book. Call it belonging. Call it peace. Call it the feeling of being a small part of something that goes on with or without you and lets you stand inside it for a while. This is why the sleep that comes from it runs so deep. It is not only that the clock is set and the nervous system is calm, though both are true. It is that a person who spends 10 minutes each morning inside that kind of peace carries less fear into the dark. And fear is the thing that keeps most people awake. Not caffeine, not noise. Fear, in its thousand quiet forms, the low hum of a mind that never felt safe enough all day to let go. The garden at dawn is an argument against that fear, made not in words but in dew and light and cool earth and the simple fact that the morning came again, the way it always has, the way it will after you are gone. Here is the thing about planting anything. You put something small into the dark ground and you cover it and you walk away, and you are making a quiet bet on a future you will be around to see. Every seed is an act of faith in tomorrow. And a person who makes that small bet every morning, who plants and tends and trusts the ground to do its slow work, is practicing over and over the exact posture of mind that sleep requires. Letting go, trusting the dark to do its work. Believing you will wake to something grown. You cannot force a seed and you cannot force sleep. You can only prepare the ground and let go and trust. The garden teaches your whole being how to do the one thing your racing mind refuses to do at night, which is to release and rest, and trust that the work continues without you watching. So when the woman 2 doors down put those bottles in a drawer, she was not just fixing a clock, though she fixed one. She was becoming a person who trusts the morning to come. And a person who trusts the morning to come does not lie awake fighting the night. They lay it down, the way you lay down a tool at the end of a good day's work, and they let the dark do what the dark has always done, and they meet the light again when it arrives, because they know now in their body that it will. That is what you are really planting out there. Not just tomatoes, not just a fix for your sleep. You are planting a way of being in time, an old one, a calm one, where mornings are met and nights are trusted and the body is finally allowed to keep the rhythm it was built for. And everything else, the deep sleep, the empty bottle in the drawer, the clean tired in the evening, grows up out of that ground on its own. Go back to the gate, the cold stone underfoot, the coffee going from hot to warm to forgotten in your hand, the light coming up over the fence, touching the bean poles, then the wet grass, then the back of your hands, while you stand there and do almost nothing at all. You understand that image differently now. You know that the person standing there is not wasting the hour. They are setting a clock behind their eyes that no watch can set. They are pressing a brake on a body that has been running too hot for years. They are stepping back into a rhythm older than every building they will enter that day, feeding a part of themselves that has no words and cannot be fed any other way. And they are doing it all by standing still in the light, holding a warm cup, asking nothing of the world for 10 quiet minutes. The pill promised to fix the night from inside the night, and it never could because the night was never the problem. The night was only ever the far end of the morning. And the morning is free, and it is waiting, and it comes back every single day at first light whether you meet it or not. The woman 2 doors down knows this now, though she would never put it in these words. Her bottles are in a drawer. Her nights take care of themselves. And if you asked her the secret, she would look at you like the answer was too obvious to say, and she would probably just point at the gate, at the light coming up over the fence, at the cool dark soil waiting for her hands. And she would tell you what the deepest sleepers have always known and the rest of us keep forgetting. You do not chase sleep.